Hey there, Evan Nathaniel Grimm. Today I'm going to be walking you through the Aries new moon happening on March 21st at 10:23 a.m. And I'm really thinking about this as a new chapter in the world, in world affairs, and in your life. So this is a very powerful new moon at a very monumental transition in world history because this is on the world axis. This is at 0 degrees of Aries. And the 0 degrees of any cardinal sign, that really is the framework of our astrological year. And 0 degrees of Aries is the beginning of the astrological new year. So not only do we have the technical new year, according to astrologers, but we also have a new setting of the tone for, in a lot of ways, you could argue the next 20 years, because Pluto is entering Aquarius 2 days later. Now, I have other videos that go all in on Pluto and Aquarius and Saturn and Pisces. So today, what I'm talking about is the impact of the Aries new moon for the world at large, for your specific rising sign, but also I'm going to continue to talk about some of the financial themes because the economy is currently going through a period of destabilization, which I and other astrologers predicted many months ago, many years ago even. You can find videos from a year and a half ago of me saying that Pluto has unfinished business before it leaves Capricorn, and now we have Pluto at the 29th degree right now as I'm talking. And you're seeing a whole series of essentially bank bailouts, capital infusions, and we expect that certainly to continue, whether you look at that astrologically or financially. So I'm going to share my screen as I always do so that you have a visual representation of the chart. So let's look at it. So this is the Aries new moon. Let me just pull this screen out a little bit. So the Aries new moon, this is again, very powerful alignment because of its position at the 0 degree point. So just to start, it is a new moon. It's not an eclipse. We will have an eclipse on April 19th though. But you want to track where 0 degrees of Aries is at in your chart. So this new moon is from the perspective of Los Angeles. So this is going to be a Gemini rising chart, but whatever your rising sign is, you want to reference 0 degrees of Aries because that's where you're starting a new beginning, a new path for yourself. So Aries and the Libra Aries axis, that's about a relationship with the self, with yourself as with Aries, and a relationship with others, with Libra being concerned. And cardinal signs are always about initiation, management, execution, executive presence, and decisiveness. And some of the Aries archetypes include competition, independence, new beginnings, being headstrong. We think about Aries, the ram, courage, impulse, and really taking chances, taking risks. So I think that this infusion of fire energy, it's certainly invigorating. And especially if you have placements in cardinal signs, major placements. So Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, and Libra, if you have major placements in those signs, then you will especially be taking advantage of this new moon as a time to set that new course for yourself. So let's talk about kind of the overarching theme and how we got here. So really this Aries new moon is opening the doors for Pluto to change signs and really usher in this entirely new era. Because we look at Pluto here, it's at the critical 29th degree, the anaretic degree of Capricorn. And it's showing us where we've just really given too much power to the corporatocracy. So I've done videos about this previously, talking about the corporatocracy, how everything is branded, every politician has been bought out. Obviously, we live in a system where anything can be bought and sold. So even this idea of public policy. So we have lobbyists, obviously, who wield enormous influence over and above the voters. We also have corporations becoming monopolistic, setting the standards for their industries. We kind of are in this, gilded age, and we have these industry titans who are basically steering consumer behavior how they want. They're basically restricting the options we have. But at the same time, we do have Pluto going into Aquarius soon, which is about, localized, sources of products, localized food supply, more local politics, and even the internet allowing for very niche and unique conversations and forums and sort of organizations to come out. So the internet is sort of like, this printing press, as I've talked about before, that's pushing against the top heavy structures that we've been talking about for years and years with Pluto and Cap. But anyways, to get back to this Aries new moon, we also see, the co-presence of Saturn and Neptune. So look at Saturn and Neptune here. Even though it's 1 degree and 25, they're pretty spread out. They're still co-present in Pisces. And this is weakening the resolve of governments and institutions' ability to maintain order. So Saturn has been in its home signs, Capricorn and Aquarius, for 5+ years. And during that time, it was actually relatively easy for bureaucrats to kind of, push their policies through brute force. And, government has become so powerful and centralized that, it's really a blunt instrument. Like they don't really hand down very nuanced directions or orders. They say everybody has to do this, or nobody can go here. Everybody has to take, the product that we want them to take. That's been our reality for a long time. And you could argue even going back to the 2000s with this idea of, WMDs justifying, wars, and even going back, of course, many decades. But anytime Saturn's in Pisces, it's in a weaker position. And what's really coming is in February 2026, we have Saturn and Neptune conjoining at the 0-degree Aries points. So here we go. This new moon is actually highlighting and birthing the Saturn-Neptune and presaging the Saturn-Neptune conjunction of February 2026, at which point I foresee, really systems as we know them completely dissolving. And what happens in the wake of that, I've already talked about that with my Pluto and Aquarius video, which you should definitely check out. So anyways, on top of this, like I've already explained, though, we do have Pluto and Aquarius sort of ginning up the masses. We see the protests in France and London. We see a lot of unease across the financial markets. And that's where I quickly want to jump to, because this Aries new moon, it is highlighting some of these financial realities, because we have Venus conjunct the North Node. We have Mars, the ruler of this moon, in conjunct to Pluto. And, we have these nodes in Scorpio and Taurus. So this new moon is further setting this tone and setting this chapter about, it's showing us how over leveraged our banks and institutions are. Just to quickly explain this, what's been going on is interest rates, they've been so low that they've encouraged, borrowing, spending, but also racking up debt. And now the debt, and if you look at also the money that's been printed since the lockdowns, it's been, I don't remember the stat, but we printed, I think, more money in the last 2 years than we ever have, or something like that. So now if you look at debt as a share of GDP in most developed nations, it's so high that higher interest rates, which we're trying to use now to combat inflation, it signals a difficulty paying back those debts. It also discourages, investment in the old bonds that were being snatched up, while these rates were lower. And so with these higher rates, banks are essentially sitting on hundreds of billions of dollars in unrealized losses, and this impacts liquidity. So really what we're seeing is, not just Silicon Valley Bank, but other banks that have very diverse depositors. We're seeing more and more banks start to tip over, or risk tipping over and then being kind of bought out. We just saw UBS acquiring Credit Suisse. So the liquidity story is still a concern. And this is just what happens when Pluto is in Capricorn, because Pluto is about debt. It is about debt obligations. It's about loans. And when we think about a bond as like an IOU, we think about like the fact that, again, while interest rates have been low for so long and quantitative easing has been at play, it's been a little bit of free money, easy money, cheap money. And now we're questioning basically the value of the currencies, the fiat currencies. And so, as I predicted back on February 13th, you can go check my live YouTube video that I did about this. I said that if you look at the position of Venus here, coming up to a conjunction with Uranus, this is about the elevation of alternative currencies. Now, I don't necessarily feel confident in crypto or alternative assets. However, I still think they're in the spotlight right here. So this could be with Aries being new, a new renewed focus on those types of options. But again, This is also in reaction to the fact that inflation is out of control. That's why we're trying to raise interest rates. So inflation continues to be out of control, where, I hear stories about people spending $250 at the grocery store for just like a week's worth of groceries. And I noticed this in line at the grocery store. People are always like asking the cashier, like, for clarification, like, can I see the receipt? Because I don't buy the fact that this costs this much. So really, we're seeing a reset in value, and a reset in what we value, and a reset in the currencies that we value. And I think that this is going to continue because Pluto is not fully firmly in Aquarius until November 2024. So what's going to happen is Pluto goes into Aquarius 2 days after this new moon, and then it retrogrades back off and on. So then it goes back and forth between Cap and Aquarius. It's dancing on that fence, on that cable wire for 2 years almost. And that's going to be bringing us back into the past, and then jolting us into the future, and then back into the past. So expect, especially with Neptune and Pisces, a lot of mixed messages in the news about, this bank is doing really well. And then 2 days later, their stock price collapses. Expect, and this is another thing I predicted, is the Mars-Neptune square of this past week has been about mixed messages in the media. And that's going to continue on this new moon for sure. So anyways, let's start to talk though about the Aries energy generally here really quick. So with Aries, it's about independence, like I said, with the archetypes of Aries. So let's bring this down to a personal level. So on a personal level, the Aries new moon on the world axis, this is a great time though for you, despite all this chaos. I still think you should leverage these transits and this moon to decide, in especially the Aries part of your chart, but decide where you want to set your own course and where you're tired of responding and catering and obeying authority. So I've offered some key questions for everyone. So you want to ask yourself, am I on a path that suits my individual needs? Where am I hindering my own growth? How can I amplify my courage? What motivates me? How can I be more confident in making decisions? Where can I be a leader? Where can I be more assertive? What am I ready to let go of? Are there authority figures that I no longer look up to, but still associate with? So this is a time to go your own way. This is a time to favor your own instincts and your own path. But the ruler of this chart is Mars. So Mars is in Gemini, squaring Neptune and in conjunct to Pluto. So that does sort of bode a little bit of caution here, because people are in a forgetful and restless simultaneously position. So with Mars square Neptune, again, be confident about that new path, but really be considerate about the alternatives first. And again, it's accentuating the passage of Pluto, which is the higher octave of Mars. And so we're carrying the frequencies up another octave, and we're motivated to completely transform the system and society we live in. And, this is also, shown by the fact that Uranus is conjunct. You look at Uranus here, it's conjunct the Mars-Mercury midpoint. That's a big deal, because the Mars-Mercury midpoint is like very quick news. It's, very motivated communication, motivated speaking, and, feeling kind of argumentative in a way. It's about conflict. But with Uranus on the midpoint, it's sort of it's sort of like maybe a news story that's just out of the blue, or it's something happens in the world that really motivates people, because Aries is motivation, motivates people to advocate for total transformation. And now one thing that's happening on this day is that Trump is, I think he's like scheduled to be detained or arrested. And so when I think about the fact that Mars is in Gemini and he's a Gemini sun, and he has a Sun-Uranus conjunction, and Uranus is on the midpoint, it's pretty obvious to me that his detainment or his arrest is probably going to agitate his swath of voters and supporters. And so I would expect a little bit of chaos out of that. Now, we also, by the way, do have Pluto in Capricorn at the same time, or entering Aquarius around the same time that the Federal Reserve talks about interest rate hikes or lack thereof. And also TikTok's US CEO is going through a hearing with Congress. So we also do have Pluto in Aquarius setting this tone of, again, the economy, which I've already talked about, but also You know, how do we control, because Pluto is control, how do we control the financial decisions of technology companies, which is Aquarius? Some other interesting tidbits before I go into the rising sign. We also have Saturn conjunct the Sun and Pluto midpoint. We also have the new moon conjunct the Mercury-Neptune midpoint. And again, we have this new moon conjunct the Saturn-Neptune conjunction of 2026. So I really think this is, again, the opening of a new chapter that cascades up to 2026, and that will be a peak where there is a new system fully either dissolving or established. And I don't know yet what that will be, but it will definitely be a transition where it's like, okay, we can actually see fully what the new system looks like, or we've actually manifested it. But at the same time, we still have until 2032 for Saturn and Uranus to come together in Gemini. So, and I actually quickly want to pull over to that because I wonder about if that is even going to show us where, you know, there may be some connections there. So let's just quickly look at that. So if I look at, the Saturn-Uranus conjunction, it's not far from that Mars position. So there we go. So it does seem like there is a passing of the torch to a different system, but it was kickstarted by this breakdown in value in money, in currency, because of the nodes being in Scorpio and Taurus. And look at this. Just look at, I mean, this is so synchronistic. We have the South node in Taurus and the North node in Scorpio in 2032. So as I'm making this video, and I didn't plan to actually pull this chart up, but it seems as though I've kind of channeled this into our live today, or our video today, which is that, you know, look at all this Gemini stuff. So look out for Gemini season 2032. You know, this is probably going to be with Saturn Uranus stabilization of something new, a new system. But it's basically Mars is there, Saturn's on that Mars, Venus, Sun, Mercury, Jupiter is on the current Pluto position. You know, we also, again, have those nodes. So I really think that this new moon is setting that track. It is actually initiating that track that is going to crescendo here, or in the sense that, or I shouldn't say crescendo. It's going to kind of finish up here. So this is the beginning of a 9-year, basically a 9-year transitional period worldwide, in which the structures that we have adhered to and the orders that we've adhered to and the customs and the norms and the culture is going through a paradigm shift, which, you know, I'm not a big fan of that term because I feel like it's overused, but I really do think this is a paradigm shift. So let's talk about the impact of the Aries new moon on each rising sign. So let me just quickly go into that. March 21st, 2023. Okay. And then now let's just quickly, sorry, software can be a little tedious. So March 21st, 2023. Okay, so here we go. Let's dial this back and see what everyone's going through here. So Aries rising. Aries rising, how do you want to manage this tumultuous time, but also this invigorating doorway into a new path? So you have it in your first house. So Aries risings, and by the way, you can also apply this if you have an Aries sun or moon. So all these forecasts, you can do sun, moon, or rising because of what's called a derivative chart, which I won't go into right now. So Aries risings, you are beginning a new path for yourself. So you are, you know, I think you're in the best position out of any sign here to really say that, you know, I can step into my own power, my own truth, maybe become an entrepreneur, run my own business, make my own decisions, or even just become a leader. Because go back to my key questions. How can I be a leader right now? I think you're in the best position to be a leader and to announce something about yourself. So I think for this new moon, you want to declare something about yourself. And even if you don't have, like, you know, a new path or a new job yet, just go on social media and say, like, you know, I'm starting to look into this now, or this is part of my new identity. So I think you're in a really powerful spot. Now for Taurus, the Aries new moon is in the 12th house. So for Taurus, you have Venus in the first right now, which means that you have a little bit of extra charm and good luck and success on your side, theoretically. And so the new moon in the 12th, you want to factor in, though, here, where, how can I sort of birth a new dream and a new vision or a new spiritual quest? So that's what you're embarking on here, is a new version of, a new version of your spirituality. And you want to connect that, though, to your first house of Venus right now, and connect with other people, relate with other people about it. And I think for many people, this would be artistic. So this could be the beginning of some type of artistic project, or maybe you're just going into a bit of a period of solitude and reflecting on, like, why am I so overworked? Because I know a lot of Tauruses are still going through some challenges. So this is your chance to reflect in the 12th house on your past, maybe your past lives and your spiritual, connection, and really go from there in terms of, finding the like-minded voices who also have that same quest, who are on that same quest. So it's a bit of an abstract moon for you. So I'm not, I'm intentionally, by definition of these transits, I'm not giving you something super concrete, because you actually want to be comfortable with the abstract with this new moon. So now we have Gemini risings. Gemini risings, this is in the 11th house. So establish yourself maybe on social media or in a group, get into politics, throw your voice in the ring, drive change, join a humanitarian group. And again, by the way, with Aries, it's about taking new risks. So take that risk to make a new type of social media content, or take a risk to, take the lead in a group, start a new friendship. The 11th house can also be about the future, right? So build that new future, but it has to be in a group context. You're not doing this alone, but it is it's very empowering. So you're putting your best foot forward there, and you have Mars in the first still. So I think you can do it. So next we have Cancers and Cancer risings. This Aries new moon is in your 10th house of career. So for you, this may be the beginning of a new job, a new work responsibility. Maybe it's a promotion, or maybe you're starting your own business, because Aries is independent. So you're taking more ownership of your career goals. And also there may be a new connection with an authority figure or a mentor. So you may be looking up to somebody new. You may be starting a new connection with someone who you see as kind of filling the shoes of somebody that you disconnected from previously. Now we have Leos. Leos, this is your 9th house. So for Leos, this is taking a chance to espouse your philosophy on life, start a new educational track, book a new trip, travel somewhere new. Maybe take a class, maybe teach a class, right? So for Leos, you could be seen as a new voice, a thought leader, and a voice of authority. You could even start a new publishing sort of situation there with Mercury up in the 9th right now. Could, start a new writing project that leads to a publication eventually in the 9th house. And as I'm going through this, by the way, whatever you start here, it could really, really come to fruition in February 2026, when Saturn's there and Neptune's there. But with Saturn and Neptune, that's very spiritual too. So this new moon, by the way, for everybody, could be the birth of a new spiritual perspective, certainly. So for Virgos, so for Virgos, this is primarily in your 8th house, but for some, it could leak into the 7th. But for Virgos, it's primarily in the 8th. So you're really thinking about maybe a new assets to invest in. Maybe you're taking a new approach to your retirement fund, or your stock, your asset allocation. Maybe you're making a new investment. Maybe you're starting a new journey to investigate the subconscious, maybe like a new therapeutic practice. And for others, you could join your resources together with someone, like, merging bank accounts, or, getting a Splitwise account with somebody, so we're really talking about exchanges of value and joint resources, other people's resources. And for some people, this could be a physical experience, like physical intimacy, but also could be even an experience of merging with another person that awakens that or transforms you in a lot of ways. So next we have Libras. Libras are in the best position to start a new relationship at this time. And this relationship can be any type. With Jupiter Chiron conjunct, you may also find yourself being very healed by this experience. You know, I think that with Jupiter there, it's like, you know, this is a time for new relationships that open doors for you in the future. So if you're looking to start a business or you're an entrepreneur, this could be a business partnership that eventually pays off. But yeah, if you're looking for a romantic partner, this week, and really this lunar cycle, the next 2 weeks, you know, you may meet that person who you feel respects your autonomy more and imbues you with this self-confidence. So yeah, look for somebody who again honors your independence. So next we have Scorpio. Scorpios, you'll have this in your 6th house. So maybe you're thinking about your health from a new vantage point. You're thinking about your diet. You're starting a new diet, maybe a new exercise routine. And with Aries being about physicality, maybe you're taking up a new sport or, you know, high contact activity. Maybe you're starting a new work project. You know, I think the 6th house is, but I think really for you, it's going to be something health focused. You're going to be focused on your health in a new way. But keep in mind, Scorpios, you have Venus in the 7th right now. So even you could benefit from some type of relationship at this time. So that looks good. And then Sag, you've got this in your 5th house. 5th house is about dates and creativity and things like that. So for Sages, this could be the birth of a new creative project that you're willing to take a chance on, a creative performance. Maybe you're, you know, maybe you're maybe you're starting a new sport, recreational sport, something like that. Or you're just finding ways to express yourself creatively. But I mean, I really see this with Jupiter on the 5th. This would be a good week to go on a date, or to find another way to, you know, connect with your internal sense of wonder, you know, and feeling like, you know, the 5th house is happy, you know, 5th house is happy. It's out in the sun. So I think for Sages, this is actually a pretty playful, creative time. And so I think you really want to focus on these areas of like, where is my creativity being, you know, stripped away, and how do I get that back? So now we have Caps. Capricorn is this in your 3rd house. I think you're opening a new communication channel with someone. Maybe you're feeling kind of like you want to, you know, I feel like you're probably wanting to, yeah, start a conversation or pick up a new skill set. You know, even the 3rd house can be about, you know, oh, sorry. By the way, this is for Caps in this Placidus conception. I just realized a lot of Caps will have this in the 4th house. So for Capricorns, the 4th house is the home and family. So for Capricorns, you're probably moving in to some new place. A lot of Capricorns, especially Cap risings, probably moving into a new apartment, a new home, moving in with somebody. Or you may, you know, you may have something arise with a family member or a parent. So it could be a dispute, could be an argument with Aries, but also you may demand more independence from somebody in your family. But I see a lot of you actually moving or doing something new with your home. You know, you're starting a new home project. You're putting things together. So Aquarius, most of you will have Aries in the 3rd, but maybe the 2nd. So like I said before, 3rd house Aries is about, you know, new conversations, maybe a new writing project. Maybe you're, you know, you're kickstarting a conversation with somebody. Maybe you're having a fight with a sibling or a neighbor. But Aquarius rising generally, you're focused on new topics, building new skill sets, you know, reading something new, writing something new, and vocalizing. 3rd house is vocalizing. So you're vocalizing, again, that desire to be the independent you. And finally, we have Pisces rising. And Pisces rising may have this in their 1st, maybe their 2nd, but let's assume the 2nd. So for Pisces rising, you know, we're really talking about the 2nd house of money and value. So for Pisces, you may be agreeing to a new source of income. You may be negotiating a new income. You may be setting a new value system in place for yourself. And, you know, you may be rethinking how to utilize your natural talents, you know, especially in a sense that, you know, I think that It could be about a way to make more money, second house monetization, but off of your natural talents. It's like, maybe I need to be leaning into my musical capabilities more, my financial, my math skills, like whatever it is. So Pisces, you do have Saturn in your first. So, it looks like the 12th here, but I think it's mostly going to be the first. So Saturn in the first is really, you're maturing really quickly, and you're taking more responsibility over yourself. And so you may, with this Aries new moon, decide, I value something new and I'm ready to let go of this old habit, for example. So it doesn't just have to be money. So it could be like, I am sick of the fact that drinking is getting in the way of my success. Maybe the second house there, it's like, I don't value that anymore. I value clarity of consciousness, and I value time, and I value wellness and well-being. So, I know that was kind of a quick rundown, but there is plenty of other content. If you want to see what's coming for March overall, I have a video about March 2023 from a month ago on my YouTube channel. But yeah, overall, this moon is very potent. It is a little confusing with Mars square Neptune still. It is a little frustrating, but because it's on the world axis, think about it like a totally new chapter. Hopefully you released a lot of baggage. Let me actually take the screen away here, so that's not distracting. So you probably released a lot. You probably released a lot of baggage about 2 weeks ago during the Virgo full moon. And so you're clearing the way for a new path here. So especially like the fixed signs, you probably got rid of a lot of, you learned your lessons, but you no longer needed to take ownership of certain things. You passed Saturn's tests, so to speak. And so now that you've done that, this Aries new moon is taking charge. You're taking charge in a different way. But for all the signs, that Virgo full moon should have been a cathartic release. And so now, despite, again, what's going on in the world, you still want to, again, with Aries being a fire sign, it's about taking a risk. So take that risk to be more bold, be more assertive, be more of a leader, be somebody who can rely on their own instincts. And I think that you will be, you'll be much stronger for it, but also you're, again, setting yourself up. It's very important to be on a track and starting a track that can kind of culminate in that February 2026 timeframe, when we have the Neptune-Saturn conjunction. And then even extending beyond that, the Saturn-Uranus conjunction of 2032. I really think that even by then, we're still trying to rationalize and work out this new system that I think is just starting to be built. And yes, it comes on the heels of a lot of unraveling and a lot of things being turned upside down. A lot of anchors that you used to have are going away. But with Aries, you have to be the anchor. So don't worry about what's happening in society all the time. Don't always live in fear. You have to be your own anchor. And I think from that position, you can be a voice of authority, and you can be a thought leader going into 2026 and going into 2032. So thank you so much. My name is Evan Nathaniel Grimm. If you want a reading from me, get one through the link below. Also, I'm hosting a retreat in Croatia in September, so you can spend a week with me there. And I'm teaching classes on intro, intermediate, and advanced astrology. So definitely don't miss that. So hope you enjoyed this new moon, and take care.